as we launch into our first thoughts of a Monday after round 11, and our first thoughts are taken to the Hawthorn Football Club. Kingy, who have hit a couple of roadblocks blocks this year, I should say, as their premiership campaign stalls. They went down by 33 points to the Lions at the MCG on Saturday. You've had a close look at them over the last month or so. What are your first thoughts?
Yeah, and we've come from different angles on the Hawks, I reckon. And even we've spoken to Sam about this. They know all of this. I just think that they need a sit down as a playing group and to accept some responsibilities to do their own jobs, their own roles. I think there's half the team trying to do too much to help the team win. I watched young Weddle on review and watched the game on Behind the Goals. He's trying to do everything for the team. He's leaving his man at the wrong times just to get involved, to outnumber, to try and impact and influence the game. So they're admirable traits, but just do your job. When you've got a man to beat, just beat that guy, particularly when you're down back. And all these things have conspired against them, and it's in the end they're off. There's something not right about the collective. Now, whether it's the settling period while Barras and Battle take effect down back is affecting Sicily, I don't know. But their ball movement doesn't have the same damage it had in the back half last year. Their stability behind the ball is poorer for having these gun recruits come in. So something is just not right. And I think they need to sit down. The powwow has to be had over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, a couple of issues for me with the loss of their weapon with that ball use. So the third quarter, they left 5 or 6 goals just out there, like unpressured, going into a dangerous position, turn the footy over, which kills you on the rebound and makes your defensive system look pretty average. But if that ball finds a target inside forward 50 and you're having a shot, your defence is setting up. So there's that. That has been lost. Their weapon, and certainly was an issue for them. And then it's the midfield. The midfield, last week I said they just look one midfielder short, and Will Day would be that midfielder. Clearly nothing you can do about that. He's not there, but they are getting smacked from the midfield. And this is a pretty combative group. But I'm not sure Warple's the answer. Like the amount of times he just picks it up and hacks it forward, hacks it out of stoppage, which is exactly what the opposition.
He's had a pretty strong
start.
Yeah,
I think he's a grab it and kick it forward guy. So if that's going to be, if he's going to be in the team, which he needs to be, then I think you'd be looking for him to be a distributor by hand, more so than kick. Kicked it at 31% on the weekend. A lot of those were out of stoppage. I get that. But I would be putting the Wizard in there. I would. And they would say his engine isn't good enough to go midfield yet. It's not big midfield minutes, but it's big impact. What Cozzy Pickett has done this year is as a result of Simon Goodman putting in more centre bounce and then getting the mismatch forward. What Papley has done at his best is go to centre bounce and then get the mismatch forward. He never goes there. And I would be definitely exploring putting Nick Watson for something else and a different look around stoppage, because they have been beaten up there. But look, they've got time to correct this, Kingy. Like Brisbane were going awfully at this time last year. There's plenty of time to correct this, and I think it is correctable.
Yeah. Well, they're too good not to.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be one of the great wastes if they didn't correct in the back half of the season. And I don't want to hear about just the fact that Will Day's not there. They've got an injury list that's got about 4 guys on it. They are incredibly healthy. They're missing one midfielder and Luke Bruce in the forward line.
Well, Mitch Lewis is handy.
But Mitch is hardly. If Mitch was at another club, you'd be saying, he never plays. He never plays.
I understand that, but I mean, he's coming off a serious ACL.
He hasn't been there for how long? Like, seriously, when was the last time they relied on Mitch Lewis to win them a game?
Yeah.
Been a long time. So I don't factor him in. When he comes back, terrific, right? But he hasn't really been that player. So I think the excuses at Hawthorn run thin. I think they're a very happy team. They're a bit too happy with themselves. They've done nothing.
They've always been happy with themselves.
They have done nothing. They had a good run the back half of last year that ran a ground when it shouldn't have in a final series. They got to get to work. They're going to knuckle down and have some honesty sessions, I think.
All right, you can have your say on that, and just their opposition. The Lions, when they look to me, we're going to do our 5-ball-5. They look the next level up on anyone else when they play like that.
Brisbane.
I think Brisbane, yeah. I think that when their midfield is working like that and they have as many dangerous forwards as they do have, I still think they're the team to beat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with Lockie later, because I feel for the first 6 weeks they were just they were playing on muscle memory. They were on autopilot. really, and weren't playing anywhere near their best. And then I feel these younger midfielders, the Ashcroft boys have given them an energy that they desperately needed. And Lockie's responded, and McCluggage is now back into some serious form. He is their wild card midfielder that just creates scores. And when he gets the ball in quickly, Archie and Charlie Cameron, we haven't seen Charlie Cameron do that this year. It's the first time we've seen Charlie have a big 5-minute window, and he finished the game.
Well, and they've got 3 or 4 of those types that may not touch it for a half a footy and then go bang and kick 3 in 5 minutes, which Cameron did. Then they have Rayner who can do similar. Like didn't see him in the first half, and you go, well, there he is again. But now, just some credit for your man Bailey, like for the season that he is putting together
as a wingman.
Well, and so his numbers. Let me just get you. So there's 4 players in the game right now that are averaging 17 plus and 1.5 goals a game. One of them's Cozzy. He's the only one that's had 20 and averaging 2 goals. Toby Green, 18.5 and nearly 2 goals a game. Zach Bailey, 17.5 and 1.6 goals a game. And Dempsey. There are 4 players averaging 17.5 and 1.5 goals a game. He's one of them. He's been freakish.
Can I go back to the Hawthorn discussion for a moment? Do you think they're being umpired differently now? I saw Dylan Moore get taken high twice early, and they didn't pay them. Matter of fact, they paid the free kick against him. And then at the other end, when Brisbane drew the high,
Bailey got one.
They got them.
It was ironic, wasn't it?
Well, I'm just. Has this been an obvious tactic that the umpires are saying, nah, you're not getting us anymore?
Which is a disgrace if it is. It really is.
I feel like it is.
No, well, it looked like it. Like the more one that you're speaking about, he was just like,
there was 2.
Hang on.
Yeah.
And then Bailey goes up the other end, and he gets the one that Hawthorn invented, essentially. And you asked Sam Mitchell about it on Friday, and he said, to paraphrase, I don't care. The skill's kicking the goal. However you get there, I don't really care how you do it. But it is definitely a watch. We'll move on to Collingwood, who have surprised me more than any other team this year. And when you looked at the outs, and I heard you speaking about this pre-game, do you give North Melbourne a chance? Absolutely, you give them a chance. When you've got that amount of capital out of your side and you're playing against a side who you've got a reasonable history with. Last year, they were 50-odd points up, and then Maynard gets injured early, and they still find a way to get this done with the second half that they produced. It is an unbelievable story what they've been able to do at Collingwood. Whether this continues or not, I think we just got to enjoy the ride, which I am starting to. But what are you seeing with them and their system and how they get it done regardless of who's there?
I love teams that can put scoreboard damage on quickly. They can score with power and in a burst. So in that start of the last quarter, I think they scored 6 goals in about 12 minutes. They're the teams I love to watch. Get the right players, ball in hand, a set method of play that they all see coming. And when your smalls are hitting the scoreboard, I think it shows that your ball movement is in really good order. Like Jamie Elliott, we don't talk enough about his ability to just destroy games, and he was terrific on the weekend. I thought North Melbourne played a weird brand of footy. The first half, 70 marks. I don't know if they're going to play like that going forward. So I always wonder why is a one-off. I understand you want to take the game out of pressure because Collingwood is so good in that chaos type game. Good to see Nick get nearly 40 touches. I'm still hot on his kicking, but 12 score involvements has so much scope for improvement. He's still getting his hands on the footy. 17
in the last quarter, and he spoke after the game. He just spoke about how they were able to reassess at halftime. I think teams that can do that, he said, we just needed to ramp up the pressure. The pressure wasn't good enough, and North Melbourne weren't essentially able to cope with that. Let's have a listen to Alistair Clarkson. He was frustrated post game.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating that we're in the contest and lose by 7 goals when it's a 3-point margin at 3-quarter time is really disappointing. The most significant message, you've got to play 4 quarters, boys. You can't just play 3.
We'll spend a bit of time on North a little bit later on in the program because there's 4 teams that are having a bye this week. Kingy and I have got 2 each, and we're going to grade them out of 10. North are one of those, as are Carlton, Kingy, who are just not good enough and are just looking to be an average football side. They got beaten by the Giants in a pretty interesting game on Saturday, which was Toby Green's 250th game. He was the story. A word on that game and the Blues' struggles this year and just where they're at.
Yeah, they lack a damaging halfback flanker that can really slice and dice. And it's Adam Sard is given the responsibility, opposition's best small forward. So you lose him as that counterpunch freewheeler, if you like. So I'm suggesting they put Sam Walsh back to halfback and just get one player that you know is going to make. I don't think he's the best kick in the world, Sam Walsh, but he's going to draw the footy and he's going to give you more than what he's giving you now. I think as a midfielder, you're getting half a dozen score involvements a week. Not enough. So I want more from Walsh. And they crave that small forward. I mean, there are two obvious flaws in their makeup. Now, some is by injury and some is by design. So I think they've had some issues with their list build, and this is the lot that Vossi has. He now has to coach this way because these are the stocks that he has.
It is the most obvious holes in any sort of contender at the start of the year's list. And you might be able to chuck in a key defender there as well, which you spoke about pre-season. Fortunately, they found Silvani to play that role pretty well. The Koning thing might be a blessing for them in the end, because what else are they going to do with no first-round draft pick other than to trade him out, get one in, free up some room, and be a bit creative with your list, who you're all
Harry
in on.
Mackay.
Yeah, and Harry's the other one, which comes up from time to time.
Got a surplus of needs forward in the ball. The game is not really demanding you have three tall forwards of note. They need, they've got holes elsewhere. We'll get to Adelaide. Okay. I look forward to the Adelaide chat.
All right. And
Not
Toby,
sure whether you saw Darcy Fogarty just rip it to shreds on the weekend.
I saw everyone else rip it to shreds.
I look forward to it.
Toby Green was enormous, going more inside as well.
Hey, can I just say, when Wiedering it very rarely has a poor
was
day,
awful.
but when he had an off one, right, and made probably 3 or 4 mistakes he doesn't normally make. So we just moved past that one.
Been pretty consistent for a long time.
Been unbelievable, right? He's been unbelievable for 100 games now or longer. But when he has an off one, it shows you what's around him. Can the others just maintain focus and some sort of defensive stability? They clearly couldn't. That was alarm bells for me.
Are they back, the D's?
The D's, well, you tell me. You've been pretty hard on the D's.
No, I'm not certain. I'm not certain they're back. I'm not certain. Well, I think I've just left too much to do. 0-5 start. The win against Brisbane was terrific. The other wins have come against teams that are around the mark or not in the top echelon of teams. So I just think it's going to be too hard for them to get themselves into a top 8 position after that start. The first game against the Giants really hurt them.
Can I ask you the same question?
Pickett hurt them as well early on.
Yes. Can I ask you the same question a different way? Do you see this team in 18 months' time being like Collingwood are right now?
Well, I think they've got more. They've got more at their disposal than what Collingwood have, just because they've been pretty heavily invested in the draft. And I've always been a fan of their under 23s. I think I've called them. They might be their under 24s now. So I think they're in reasonable shape. I do, provided that they have a game style that is up with modern football. In the first 5 weeks, they've only 75 points. I think was their highest. They've kicked 100 plus 3 times since then, and 99 last week. So it's looking a better unit, but there's a lot of work to be done. What do you think?
Oh, I think there's always a lot of work to be done, but they've done some of it. They've taken some bullets during this reset transition period, and have trusted some of the kids. And the Oliver feedback was really strong the last couple of weeks. I think this reset has worked. I really do. 30 touches yesterday. Clearly, he's not the player that everyone wants him to be from 3-4 years ago.
Nowhere near that player.
But I get that. But you still can have a reasonable commodity game, week to week, whilst he regathers. Hopefully, getting back to that point. I think the fact that Bowie is now getting tagged is a real feather in his cap. James Jordan went to him yesterday. He only had 4 intercepts, but he still managed to get 17 or so odd touches. And I just thought, you know what, this is great for the young kid. You're probably top 3 in Melbourne's best and fairest at the moment. You're going to have to get used to handling this. I like the use of Rivers on Heaney. Oh, that was terrific. And in the end, Melbourne have scored 19 goals. 4th highest score since 2018. 82 points from turnover, which is their 2nd highest for 7 years. So there's a lot going right at Melbourne. If you're just narrowing the focus on 1 or 2 players, you're missing it. You're missing what they're doing so well.
So what are your expectations this year? Is this just that reset year where you almost write it off? And
you don't write it off, but I think you can have a growth year I mean, not every team's aiming to win the flag this year. Not every team, they know they can't win the flag this year.
Even when you've got Lever, May, Gawn,
Yeah, I think
Petrarca,
so.
Oliver.
I don't think in their wildest dreams they had themselves win the flag this year. Did you?
Oh, I would have thought they thought if things go well that they would be in the mix. Why not? Why
No,
not?
I don't
You've got a
think so.
core group that looks like that. That core group is similar to Carlton's core group, who would have been aiming to win it this year.
Yeah, and how's that read looking?
Yeah, not great.
That's my point,
but-
right? So
but
I think
as
they've
a
had
club-
a great handle on where they're at. They've blooded these kids. They've given prime roles to players like Rivers, who we just spoke about, Bowie, who we're talking about. It hasn't just been the older statesmen.
Yeah, but there's always going to be some young, talented players coming through, regardless of what stage you are at. But let's talk about Cozzy and what he's done this
Yeah,
year.
good.
I mean, last year I think I called on him to do it more consistently. I said his best is as good as anyone's, but then his worst and the gulf between his best and his worst is too significant for a player of his talent. But now he is starting to do it, and it's not going to be 24 and 5 every week, but he's doing that semi-regularly, which is honestly frightening. He just looks to be a player that's unstoppable. I'm not sure how you play on him or stop him.
Well, he's their best player now. And that's saying something given the Petrarca and Gawn are right up there, aren't they? But I think Cozzy's gone past those two on this
No, I agree.
year's, this year's sort of status, not bringing in the past. But the fact that he had 14 touches inside the forward 50, I can't remember him having that sort of volume. Unbelievable. 5 goals, 4. He could have had an amazing day. He missed some that he'd like again. But I love the fact they're now putting him in at centre bounce and allowing him to do his thing in there and then roll forward. It does cause confusion, and you've got to treat your trump cards differently. Like this is the guy now. Pickett is now the guy. It isn't Petrarca anymore. He's a better user. You get more bang for buck when Pickett's got it than Petrarca.
He's better
Treat him like your
and he's
trump
better
card.
defensively as well. Like I'm not sure how you go about stopping him at the moment. So they've got him under contract, and under no circumstance should they be trading him until he comes out of contract and demands to leave, because you're not going to let him go.
What's the minimum? What's the minimum you take for him?
I just don't know if there is one, because you're going to get draft picks, which are an unknown commodity. And the talk of Luke Jackson for Cozzy Pickett is so ridiculous.
Jackson's not going anywhere.
So unfair. Well, and probably a win-win for both end if that's the case. But I wouldn't be trading Cozzy under any circumstance. I was at the Adelaide Oval on Sunday to see the Crows get it done pretty convincingly, 66 points against the Eagles, who I couldn't question their effort, to be fair. I thought their pressure was good. There was some good turnover stuff. Thought their execution off turnover there was a bit of method around that. I don't know what, we'll check in with Waterman with Xander a little bit later on, but that looked nasty.
Yeah.
And I just love watching that guy play. I thought Oscar Allen was better. Thought his effort was really strong and was only let down by a few entries inside forward 50 when he had his man stone cold beaten. They needed to compete more in the air. They allowed Adelaide to intercept, mark the ball far too often. I think it was 9 in the first quarter, but in the end, the result was as we probably expected. Kingy, I did love Matthew Nicks giving Berry a full game. He's been 4 games sub, starts him inside with good results, and Berry's too good not to be playing as a midfielder in a AFL side. Not sure whether it's Adelaide next year, but no, they were impressive, Adelaide.
I thought they went for their kicks a bit more out of half back. They looked like they really put some punch in them, flattened them out. Worrell, who's a bit of a loopy kick on occasion, he was going for them. The 2 tools versus 3 tools discussion is all we're here to chat about, really. Walker rested. Thilthorpe was dominant, 7 marks, 10 score involvements, 2 goals, 3. Could have had a massive day. He had Harry Edwards. Darcy Fogarty, this is my point with Darcy Fogarty. When he gets the first or the second defender, he doesn't destroy him. I can't remember the last key defender that he took to task.
Well, they're giving him the first or second best anyway. Walker's the one that's getting the third best.
Why doesn't he destroy? They have 64 inside 50s yesterday. He kicks 1 goal.
One game.
That's not. Don't go back through his history.
Walker's hardly been setting the world on fire either.
But the 3 tools work.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that. I think you look at the makeup of 11 individual goal scorers, Rochelli's impact, Dawson can go more forward, Rankin can go more forward. It's more dynamic when they're smaller and they play their guns forward of the ball. So if Walker plays yesterday, Pedler doesn't play, or Berry Berry probably doesn't play. I just think it's a better looking group when you're a bit smaller and more dynamic. But
Darcy Fogarty has 5 kicks as the second tall. 5 kicks.
Yeah, it's one game of football. I mean, Walker was subbed out last week. You can pluck one game of football out, but I think
this is what we talk about.
So they've given him. So they've
talls.
given him 7 years. Darcy Fogarty. He's the guy. Him and Thilthorpe are the guy. Are they going to be so? Walker doesn't have that long left anyway, so they're not going to go and get another key forward when Taylor Walker's retired. So they've committed to this guy. So you've got no choice but to be Thilthorpe and Fogarty.
Yeah, but that's not the discussion if they've committed to him. The discussion is, are they a better team with 3 or are they a better team with 2 in 2025? I'm still in the 3 camp because Walker still impacts games, whether you like it or not. And we've seen the 2 model. 1 game, yep, small sample. We're tracking it. This will be tracked more, the closest thing of the year, right? Because they're a serious team and they're going to be there. They're a chance to be top 4 the way they are playing. Their ball movement, it looks to be back. I really love their clearance game. I think that there's an asset there that they need to get more aggressive with.
So they've kicked 19 goals without him, though. Like I mean, you always say it's the flow on of the whole of the forward line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So, I mean, you can't really be critical of what they delivered.
But you're
yesterday.
telling me, I'm saying that if Walker's there yesterday, Walker's kicking 4.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't against Port.
He didn't against Port, but a showdown's different to a game against the West Coast
It's
at
a
home.
bottom 4 team.
I think the West Coast are an easier commodity to beat than Port.
Okay. All right. We'll wait. We'll
is
wait
there
and
anyone
see.
that disagrees with that in the world, that Adelaide versus Port is a tougher game than Adelaide versus the West Coast Eagles?
We don't have much evidence of Adelaide against bottom teams. That was one of them. You plucked out one game. I plucked out one game. And
Adelaide versus Port is your grand final every year for Port.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure this.
Haven't been to any others.
Sure this version of Port.
Haven't been to any others for a little while.
And Adelaide have.
Adelaide?
Well, yeah. 99. Well, that was good, wasn't it? In 2017. That was
recent,
really good.
isn't it?
Well, you're
Don't
counting,
take
you're
it personally.
counting that.
Don't take it personally.
You're counting that.
Don't take it personally. I know you love Ken.
All right. It's our
We look forward to
first
seeing.
thoughts.
So Walker comes back in next week, and
He
we'll
will.
get to assess. We'll get to
We
reassess
will,
him.
and we'll assess it in September, more specifically as well. Gossage couldn't even understand why it was a free kick. And then the coach,
I love the
The
Goss.
coach of Fremantle said there is no issues, 0. Well, he completely
I am the lifeblood of this industry.
misread it, did Justin Longmuir. So Pearce gets his 3 weeks, which he was always going to get. Was graded careless conduct, severe impact, and high contact. I'm comfortable with it. I was comfortable with it from the minute I saw the incident, from the minute he took his eyes off the footy, from the minute he got him high, from the minute he didn't take into account the player's duty of care running back with the flight of the ball. Kingy, I'm sure you're the same.
It's pissing me off listening to the coaches talk like this, right? Because the game has to address
Don't
this.
swear.
It's annoying me then. The game has to address this, and if the coaches are not part of this shift, then how are we supposed to correct? Look, the game needs for Justin Longmuir to say, you know what, it's one of those line ball ones. We hope we fall the right side of it. Everyone will push for 3 weeks. I understand what the player's doing, and it'll be in the margins. But they go so far the other way to protect them. It's not going to make any difference to the sanction.
0.
Right? So let's just accept as a code that we've all got to adjust. And none of us probably love it, right? None of us. But we have to go this way. We have to. I'm going to play some audio later from Paul Seedsman, who did an amazing interview with ABC on the weekend. And it just highlights why we are doing this. And to have coaches come out and protect this sort of stuff really irks me.
Callum Mills will be looked at today as well. His incident with Spargo. Was he making a genuine attempt to contest the ball? You could mount that argument, I think, but I don't know why he needed to leave his feet. Now, that's really hard on him, but I'm just not sure why he had to jump and turn his body. He essentially does end up touching the ball, but I would think he's in a bit of trouble as well, Callum Mills, which is unfortunate for him.
If he touches the ball, he got both hands to the
I
ball.
know.
Is that?
I think
a
they
way
could
of-
challenge that at the tribunal. I
Yeah.
think if this was found to be a sanction, I think you could challenge that because he does actually touch the footy, and that's what he said to the umpire when the free kick was given against him. I'm just not sure why he needed to launch and jump off the ground in that, which he would be asked that question.
So they need some wriggle room from 0 to 3. There needs to be a one weeker in there.
Anything more than one would be ridiculous for that.
Yeah.
Is what I would say. School's out because there are 4 teams that have the bye this round, so a good opportunity just to give them a grade on how we have seen their year so far. I'll start with the Blues. We touched on them briefly, didn't we, Kingy, with where they are at. Clearly the worst kicking team in the competition. Clearly the most inefficient team when they go inside forward 50. So only 16% of their entries lead to a goal, which is 18th in the competition. Adelaide number 1 in that facet. They want to play the same way, and that's a pretty combative, stoppage, contested style of game. From a personnel point of view, there's clear deficiencies there, and that continues to be the case. As you said, they're desperate for a running halfback. They don't have one of those other than Sard, and a small forward would be handy. And they don't have a lot of moves to make, don't have their first-round draft pick, do not have much salary cap space at all, hence the reason why Matt Kennedy was traded, which was a disaster. And they're in a bit of trouble, I reckon, the Blues, going forward, unless they can get creative with the pick that they'll get for De Koning, the salary cap space that will be freed up. But I'm not sure about the next 3 or 4 years for the Blues, unfortunately. And Kingy, I think their window has been slammed shut. I give them out of 10 a 4.
A 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough.
You happy?
Well, I've got,
is that fair?
what was your section?
Well, yeah,
How
I like to
encroach.
involve you. And
I don't know if their window's shut. I think
Okay.
they've got an off season to get aggressive, and then it can be still open for another couple of years whilst they've got these elite level players in their sweet spot, if you like, just short of 30 years of age. It's when they should be playing their best footy. So I'm not sure it is shut. I've got the Port Adelaide Football Club.
Uh-oh.
Now, very difficult to be super critical of their last few weeks, given the injury list that they are carrying at the moment. No Farrell or Francis. Lockie Jones is out, who's not a star but an important player. We haven't even seen Lukosius really. Marshall, we've hardly cited. Sin's out, so they're down on star factor players, which has really challenged their depth. And the bottom line is they're just not good enough. They're not. Even the first 6 weeks of the season, I thought there was flaws in the way they wanted to play. Their contest stuff wasn't anywhere near the level. Their clearance work wasn't near the level. I thought their work with the footy was impotent. So there was, to me, the long goodbye with the coach was starting to have an effect even then. So I've always been critical of this decision. Now, this is unfortunately where they're at. The only discussion regarding Port Adelaide at the halfway mark of the year is what to do with Ken, because this year is a write-off. In terms of what they were able to achieve this year, they're a 3 out of 10. But it's not really about this year anymore. It's about when do you start looking at the future. The past is the past. They've got to put a full stop on this tenure at some stage. Now, we've always talked about the respecting of Ken Hinkley on the way out. Is that done over another 12 weeks? Or is that done over the next 3 weeks? I think it'll be more likely 3 than 12. He's been great for the place, but it is just simply time. The star factor players in Rosie, Butters and Horn Francis are going to carry this group for some time, you would think, but they've got to get better around the edges. And they will say they haven't had a fair swing at it forward of the ball because of the injuries, which you have to concede.
Don't really disagree with any of that. North Melbourne, for me, 2 wins, 1 draw, 17th on the ladder after 11 games. I think Dwayne said during the week that they'd finished bottom 2 for the last 5 years, which sounds about right. To be bottom 2 again at this point is disappointing. Only West Coast have conceded more points this season after they were the worst defensive side last year. There is some positives though. Like there is some positives from an individual personnel point at North that you go, gee, this like Comben emerging is what a great story, I think, and I love watching him play. I think he stood up in big moments at big times, and they've found one, and his body's been stable, so that's been a great move. Curtis is a star and in the conversation as the best small forward in football. Finn O'Sullivan is another one that just comes in and looks ready and is ready to go. So, I mean, his next 15 years is going to be enormous and exciting, and Wardlaw's worth the price of admission on his own just to go and watch him play. Now, not big numbers for George just yet, but that'll come. So there's some positives. In the back half of the year, they've got West Coast again, Richmond, St Kilda and Carlton. I think you've got to win all of those and try and get yourself to 7 wins and a draw. And then there's something to hang your hat on for the year. I think the second half of the year is going to be much stronger than the first. But, yeah, just far too often they disappoint you when they're in games and they aren't able to finish the job done. There seems to be a lack of resilience, unfortunately. But they're playing better than being 17th on the ladder again for North. For me, it's a 5 out of 10 for the year. I think the second half's going to be much better than the first.
I've got the Dogs. Now, I just want to... You look at the Dogs, and they are one of the most powerful teams with possession to get on the scoreboard. They're one of the best teams defensively to deny the opposition when they have possession and not allowing them to get it on the scoreboard. They are 2 huge ticks that can take you a long way. They've got an asset with this inside to outside game now, their handball game, that is not just Marcus Bontempelli and Libber only. It is now deeper than that with Fraser and Ed Richards having a stellar season. They'd probably have 2 or 3 guys in the conversation in the midfield for all Australian honours already, and that hasn't happened at the Dogs for a little while. I'm looking at where they can go. If you look at the losses, okay, they've lost a few. The losses have been really close losses. I was looking at this yesterday. So what are they? They're against against bottom teams. They've smashed them. They're 6-1, 5-1. They sit 6-5 on the table, but I'm looking at the 5 losses, Cornsey, and the losses have been by 6, 16, 21, 10, and obviously the loss on the weekend to the Cats, which was a great game. So they've been right in every game. I think this is what you want if you're a Western Bulldog supporter. You want to be in it. Clearly they want to be a top 4 team. I think they've made significant inroads down back with O'Donnell taking some giant strides. He looks like a competent defender. I think Buku Karmas looks like he can play a lot of senior football now forward of the ball. I'm not sure where I sit with this Aaron Norton. I've heard you talk about him week on week, and I'm waiting for him to have that game. I think he's around the edges. 1 goal, 3 last week. I think he has a 4-goal game in him in the next few weeks. Probably maybe needed the bye to come quickly, but they got assets. They're flying. I think they're a real sneaky chance to win it this year. I think they're probably looking at about an 8.5 out of 10 type start to the season.
Well done.